Making your way through work Monday takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our streets where everybody knows your game, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome into another edition of the Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. I am here with the one and only Mr. Alex. How are you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, man. Just counting down the hours to the weekend.
Yeah, how'd the week go for fantasy?
Not good. I mean, it did in my dynasty leagues. I'm pretty happy with my teams in my dynasty leagues. They're set up to win, this year. Not long term, but in my redraft, had to make some moves today with JJ, getting put on IR.
Yeah, it's a killer. There have been a ton of IR designations over the last 2 days, so it's going to be an interesting way to maneuver around the landscape. I mean, there's a lot of players now viable that could make big impacts. What's up, Albert? How you doing, man? Let's jump right into it. We'll jump right into the news and get everything. That was my phone. Let me silence that for the people. We'll get right into the news and we'll get going here. Minshew is expected to start 4 to 6 weeks with Anthony Richardson being hurt. Is he playable?
Yes.
Minshew mania, huh? We're back.
Yeah. He needs. I mean, this is his chance, and he's gonna show it. This is like Baker last year fighting to show people I can be a starting quarterback.
I'll say I love it for my Pittman shares because I have a couple of them.
Downs.
So we'll see. We'll see. A-Chain to the IR. It's official today that he is going to the IR. And Jeff Wilson was designated back, and he was at practice today. It sounds like he's going to play this week. I'm interested in that. We will definitely get into some Jeff Wilson talk a little bit later. What's your initial thoughts on that backfield?
Don't want it. Have fun with the Russian roulette.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Austin Eckler is expected back this week. That's good news. He's supposed to play Monday night, so we'll keep an eye on it, but it sounds like he's going to be playing. Travis Kelce is questionable for Thursday night football with that ankle injury. I know he was limited today at practice, so it's going to probably be a game time sort of thing, so you're going to have to keep an eye on it come right at kickoff. But yeah, it's a juicy matchup for him this week, but obviously
probably
the ankle
snaps.
Yeah, you would think he's going to play, but I mean, it's the Broncos, so they might just hold him out and say, you know what, we're going to win either way, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then Greg Dulcich is designated for return. He's coming back off that hamstring injury off the IR. Is he an interesting pickup for you?
Keep an eye on it. Everybody outside of the top 4 or 5 guys is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be week to week matchup dependent. Some players are starting to emerge, in my opinion, but again, we'll probably get into a couple tight ends moving forward throughout the night and definitely tomorrow. So keep up to date with that. Let's get into it, dude. Let's get into some.
Do you believe that?
Do you believe now?
Do you believe now?
Do you believe now? Let's get into it. Justin Fields. Let's start it off. We're going to do two of each positions. We're going to start with the QB position. Justin Fields, quarterback 4 overall, over 30 points in each of his last 2 games. Are you in on Justin Fields now?
Yeah. I mean, I think he still has some bad games ahead of him, but I think there will be more fantasy relevant games. I don't know if he's the starting quarterback next year for the Bears, but this year, as long as he's starting, you're probably putting him in.
Yeah, it's the interesting part is it's all with his arm. It's all with his arm. They're not running him as much as we saw last season. If he can marry the two, like if he gets some more designed runs and he's throwing the ball how he's been throwing it, and DJ Moore is doing what he's doing, man, he could really do some numbers for fantasy football. So I'm obviously in on him. I was scared after the first couple games, but I was still always like, all right, he'll get it. He'll get it. It's coming. I thought he needed a couple games just to build that confidence up. He got them the past 2 weeks. So I'm excited to see. And he's got a nice couple games coming up too. So I'm excited to see what he can do moving forward. Another guy from the same game, Sam Howell. Quarterback 14 overall. He has 18 points or more in 4 of his 5 games. What's your initial thoughts on Sam Howell for the rest of the season?
Keep an eye on him. I think he has a realistic shot of finishing top 12. So, for those 12-team leagues and, you're having some, rough luck. Let's say you have Stafford or somebody else that's just not doing enough for you. He's somebody that's worth rostering. I mean, they have enough talent all around them. Curtis Samuel looks good. There's a ton of talent on that offense this year.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a lot of what we saw last week, right? Where they get down big and they just have to throw the ball. And he's going to put numbers up just because he's going to throw the ball so many times. Which for fantasy football, that's great, right? Like he's a poor man's Blake Bortles or however you want to look at it, but he's probably going to put up some numbers and you're going to look at the end of the first half and he's going to have 4 points, right? And you're going to be like, oh God, what's going on? And then by the end of the game, he's got 25 just because.
Yeah.
I could see a season like that. So I'm definitely interested in how, like, I don't think he's great by any means, but like you said, there's a ton of talent on this offense and they're just going to have to throw. Like they're going to have to throw the ball. So.
To me, he's very like him and Baker have the same ceiling.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Not going to win you weeks. Right. Not going to win you weeks, but like he should put up enough points where you're not killed.
Pretty high ceiling, pretty low floor.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I like it. Let's get into some running backs. Kyren Williams, a guy that he's being talked about quite a bit right now. Running back 5 overall. I'm going to give you the last 4 games, okay? 4 games ago, 28 points. Then he follows it up with 8.5 points. Then he goes 27.7 points. And then this week, 7.7 points. What are we thinking with this backfield? What are we thinking with him specifically? Like, what are we doing?
I don't see anybody else there who's looking to take away touches from him. So the offense is looking better than people thought. Puka is looking good. Atwell's looking good. Higbee does what Higbee does and just somehow
Stafford
relevant.
Looks good.
Yeah, Stafford looks healthy. He's slinging the ball. So I'll be honest, he doesn't look phenomenal running the ball, but he's doing enough and he's catching, he's getting touches. So he's going to have opportunity the entire season.
Yeah. It's the touches, right? Like he's just getting so much volume.
Touches.
It's hard to avoid it. His underlying numbers, like all the nerdy numbers that we like to talk about, they're terrible. Like they are bottom of the barrel. Rushing yards over expected, per touch, like that kind of stuff. It's brutal. But unless they pivot to somebody like that, Ronnie Rivers, there's a lot to talk about him. I don't know. It's a good question from Allard. Are we worried about the targets going down? I don't think so.
It could. It was 1 week with Cooper Kupp, and it dropped below 10 points. It was his worst game.
Yeah, but I kind of attribute that to them getting down, right? Like they were down the whole second half of the game. They were down points. They were just trying to get back in the game, throwing the ball a lot. I think they'll be in more games than they're not. And again, the offense is going to be, in my opinion, somewhat high scoring. So Kyron should have good opportunities to score the ball. Like he's going to have, like Stafford's not scrambling for a touchdown. Like you don't have to worry about that. So if they're inside the 5, Kyron should get a touchdown. So that's good. The only thing I'm worried about is Sean McVay saying like, dude, you're not getting it done. We should be running the ball even better than what we are, and him pivoting to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, that's my only concern.
Yeah.
But as of now, it's again, like he's hard to not play. Like he's just getting so many touches. But yeah, it's that slate, those 4 games right there is like, holy shit. Like,
yeah,
wins you weeks might lose you a week when you know that kind of stuff. So it's tough.
It's probably gonna be like that all season.
Yeah, which sucks. Jaleel McLaughlin, running back 27 overall right now, over 18 fantasy points in the last 2 games. What's your initial thoughts on him? Obviously Javonte was at practice.
Yeah,
full practice today, so he's coming back.
Everything is kind of a flip of the coin. It's kind of like a really bad version of the Dolphins running back situation.
Okay.
Where you have 3 guys and none of them are guys who are going to be getting, a drastic majority of the touches.
Yeah, which makes me interested in Jaleel because we've seen him. He's got that ability, like if you want to compare it to the Dolphins backfield, like that A-chain, like where he could break one, right? He has that in him, where I don't know if Javonte does, right? Especially this season, just coming off the injury. Like I don't think he's got that breakaway speed that he needs. And if they're splitting carries, I'd probably rather have Jaleel just because of that breakaway upside. I'm interested. This week's going to be telling just to see how the splits like work themselves out. But he's looked good. Like you can't deny it. Like he looks good when he gets the ball.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the side of like I would probably sell him. I just if you can get something really good for him, I would sell him.
Yeah, I'm interested in what what you could get out of him. Maybe like a flex-worthy wide receiver, something like that.
You might be able to get like a wide with how terrible running backs are this year. You might be able to get like a high flex, low wide receiver too.
Which would be interesting. Yeah, like if you can pull that off, I'd probably pull the trigger. But I'm just very curious to see how it pans out this week with this backfield.
Awesome to see.
Yeah. Another guy, Washington. We're going back to Washington. Curtis Samuel, wide receiver 35 overall right now. He had over 18 fantasy points in the last 2 games. And he's getting a ton of targets right now. What's your outlook? Are you rostering him? Is he worth throwing in your flex? Where are you at with him?
Yeah, I would definitely roster him. And I think depending on how your team is, like I think he's a low end flex right now. They're trying to get him involved. I mean, they've talked about in the offseason that we've got to find ways to get Curtis Samuel involved. And they've been a little bit more creative with him this season. And Sam Howell looks pretty solid. Not amazing, but he looks pretty solid. I'm rostering. I don't know if I'm starting, but it isn't the worst idea to put him in your flex right now.
Yeah. Like you said, they're trying to get him touches. We talked about this last week. When you see a team actively trying to get a player involved with however they're doing it, like Samuel is getting designed runs and jet sweeps and stuff like that, and then they're throwing the ball 7 to 10 times a game. Like they're trying to get the guy the ball, which is telling, and it's making me very nervous about Jahan Dotson just because like I was in on Jahan Dotson this season.
Right. And that's what like I had, people are asking like, if Curtis Samuel's slight rise, who's it affecting? Is this affecting McLaurin or is it affecting Jahan Dotson? And it's like long term, it's affecting Jahan Dotson.
100%. I'm with you on that. It makes me scared for Jahan.
Yeah.
Because, it makes me scared for Jahan. Like I was in on it. I was very in on him at the beginning of the season. I thought he was going to be a top 24 wide receiver. Yeah. And now
he looks small, man. I'll be honest, he just doesn't look.
Yeah. I mean, he is to the point where he's almost droppable.
Yeah.
Like you can make a case to drop him for, I don't know, like I don't think I would drop him for Curtis Samuel. But like there is a strong case that Dotson is a target to be dropped.
I don't hate it.
Yeah. I had hopes. I had hopes. Devonta Smith, wide receiver 25 overall right now. He's averaging 7.7 points per game over the last 3 weeks. Are we in panic mode?
Kinda. To the extent of the emphasis of the team saying we want to get Goddard involved. We want to get Goddard involved, and they have been. And A.J. Brown is just too good to not feed the ball, and DeAndre Swift has looked way better than the expectation was, to where he could have, I mean, the last half of the season last year, he was like wide receiver 7 or something crazy.
I mean, he was I think he was top 5 wide receivers through the first 2 weeks of this year. He looked amazing. He looked amazing.
And then the script kind of flipped to where it's
I'll tell you, dude, after A.J. Brown had his little hissy fit on the sideline, it's been A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith taking a back seat. So
sometimes
again,
QBs over. It's the thing with Devontae Adams, and Aaron Rodgers was not scared to say, "Hey, I'm going to throw the ball to him 165 times this year," and it's the same thing in Vegas now. When you have a receiver who is that good, that dominant, like Jamar Chase, I understand you might have other talent on the field, and Devontae Smith is very talented, but you've got to feed your top dog. You've got to give him the confidence. You've got to, get the chemistry down and the trust down. So you have to feed him. You have to feed your number one guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's too good not to.
Yeah, I'm I own a lot of Devontae Smith. Just where I was drafting this year, it seemed he always fell to me in like the third, like very late third, fourth, where I'd snag him. So I have a lot of Devontae shares. Starting to freak out a little bit, just a little bit. I still think they're going to figure it out and be able to get everyone involved. Like, I think it's coming.
They don't need to.
That's the thing. Like, if they're running the ball how they're running it with Swift, and the defense is playing well, which it's not as good as it was last season. So, like, there might be some more shootouts.
Hurts has got some picks thrown into Devontae's side.
And Hurts doesn't look as dominant as he did last season.
He's been more successful throwing it to Brown than he has Devontae Smith.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the argument can be like, again, the first 2 weeks, he was unstoppable. So you'd hope the pendulum would kind of swing a little bit back towards Devontae, even out a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see. It's something to monitor and like keep note of, because I think Devontae is too good for this to continue. Like, I think he'll figure it out. I think they're going to figure it out.
I don't necessarily disagree. I just think realistically, like, he's had a one 10 target game, a 1 9 target game, and then the rest are 5 target games. Mm-hmm. And I think realistically, with where they want this offense is for him to be less than 10 targets a game.
Yeah, and I think it's just gonna. I agree with that, but I think there's going to be maybe a different way they utilize him with those 5 targets, 5 to 10.
I don't know. He's the thing with Devontae is he's super talented, and he's in there to be kind of a number one guy, but he's not like a gimmicky player. He's not like Debo. You can't run stuff out of the slot, like too much out of the slot. You can't run sweeps and do all this stuff with him because he's a $170. Like,
yeah, well, he does his, like, he's great downfield. Like, he's one of the better downfield receivers. They're just using AJ that way.
It's tough.
So, yeah, we'll see, man. It's making me a little nervous.
Yeah, you're not selling him at all.
Especially right now.
Get him, because...
Yeah, like, if anything, he's a buy for me. He's a buy for me right now if I can. But
it is worrisome.
Yes.
It is 100% worrisome.
Definitely worrisome. We're doing the Washington Commanders show tonight, so we're going back over to Washington with Logan Thomas, tight end 8 overall, 3 top 12 tight end weeks. I believe he was tight end 2 this week, 2 or 3. Yeah. He looks good. Are we in or out on him?
Healthy Logan Thomas has always been good.
Yeah.
You have to be in, and the awesome thing about him, it's the same thing kind of with Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce was a quarterback going into college, and Logan Thomas was a college quarterback. And they understand, like, what does the quarterback want, And it doesn't hurt that Logan Thomas is 6'6", and like he's massive.
Yeah, and there's a lot of parallels with Bieniemy going to Washington, kind of using Logan Thomas in that same way they use Kelsey. He's getting a good amount of targets, so he's someone like you said, healthy Logan Thomas has always been good.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like if you have him or if you can pick him up, like ride the wave while you can. Because who knows? Like we've seen it, the dude gets hurt every single year.
All the time. Yeah.
So it's like just roll with it until it kind of the wheels fall off. So he's somebody that I actively picked up a ton this week and last week, and I've just plugged him in and been like, all right, let's just ride with it, because I'd rather play Logan Thomas than like Darren Waller right now or Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think Logan Thomas is going to be way more consistent, and he has the upside of boom weeks, like we just saw it.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's on a better offense than like Kyle Pitts and Darren Waller.
For receiving, yeah, for sure. Definitely Darren Waller, but like just receiving wise.
Well, yeah. I mean, Falcons don't throw the ball, so
100%. Yeah. Another guy that I was high on this offseason, I got scrutinized for it. Cole Kmet, tight end 4 overall right now. Tight end 1 over the last 2 weeks. Where are we at with Mr. Cole Kmet?
I like Cole. I mean, I liked him last year. I like him this year. Yeah, I mean, I think for this offense to be good, and I said that, before the season, for this offense to do well, you have to get Kmet involved, obviously, and DJ Moore. It's keep it simple, stupid. Mm-hmm. Get the ball in your best players' hands. That's just, and it's like what I like see what the Eagles are doing. It's like AJ Brown and Goddard, Devontae Smith, you're good, but it's easier to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple.
Yeah,
it's just a lot more simple.
He's doing the thing, man. He's again,
good.
It's 2 subpar defenses, so like we got to see it with some better defenses when they get up to it, but. Yeah, he's just deadly in the red zone. The dude gets open. He's like weirdly quick for his size. I think he's good. He's just good. And he's demanding the targets. Like you said, it's like DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. That's what this offense is. The running backs are all hurt now, so it's going to be even more pass happy. I think he's an easy plug and play until otherwise. Like I just think you're plugging him in and letting it ride just like Logan. But let's get into some waiver wire recap. Who was someone you went out and tried to get this week?
This is a surprise, but somebody I was trying to pick up off the waiver is KJ Osborne. It's not really a surprise. I didn't get him in most of the places I wanted to get him. I just didn't bid enough, but with JJ, we don't know how long he's going to be out. I think that, the targets are going to tick up for Hawk, and I don't know if Addison can work as being the number 1, with the attention it's going to get, to where this Vikings team is terrible. Their defense is probably the worst in the league, or arguably the worst in the league. KJ Osborne was getting targets with Jay Jetta and Addison. Was it a ton? Like, you weren't starting him, but now you have to. It's a plug and play. You have to start him immediately.
This is another one. This is going to be a week where I'm very excited to see how this Minnesota offense kind of changes gears with JJ. He's going to be out a long time. He's going to be out probably over a month.
Minimum a month.
Yeah,
on IR.
Yeah, he's on IR, so at least 4 weeks, and then it could be way longer than that. Like if they're not winning games,
there's some scenarios that are. It's if this, if he in 4 weeks, if this team's got 2 wins, then they might just look at it like this season might be a loss.
Yeah, hold them out. And there's a ton of talks of them maybe trading Kirk Cousins. Yeah. So like, what does that do to the whole offense?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just too many question marks. I mean, me having JJ myself, like I traded him today.
Mm-hmm.
So
in redraft, I think that's the move. Like if you can move JJ right now for a good haul,
If you're like 5-0, then yeah, you could stick him on IR and kind of weather the storm to see if it's worth it, because it's going to really hurt if he does come back in like 6 weeks and then he just balls out the rest of the year. But if you're not undefeated, if you're like me, where it's been a rough year to begin with, you get rid of him. You need to figure out how to win games right now.
Yeah, I agree. That offense is going to be interesting moving forward.
I agree.
And then a guy that I picked up, you were kind of knocking this backfield, but Jeff Wilson for me. I snagged him where I could get him. He was in, I put a decent bid in. I got him in a few leagues. Again, A-Chain's on IR now. Mostert's not the most reliable with health. We've seen that throughout his career.
Right.
And
Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, I agree. But
obviously he wasn't playing.
It's worth the risk for picking him up, right? Like,
yes.
if you can snag him, and even if you get a month of him in this offense, like they have the number 2 and number 3 right now running back in the league. Do I think Jeff Wilson's going to do what A-Chain did? No, but I also think Jeff Wilson's going to be the back at the goal line. Like, he's going to get those touches. This offense is so good, so dynamic. They're putting up so many points that he's going to have a good amount of scoring opportunities. And I don't see why, last season, Jeff Wilson was pretty much the main back over Mostert. It was like a 60-40 split, but it was Wilson getting the majority of the work. So I think there's a real case for Wilson coming in and taking over that RB1, maybe not week 1, but 2-3 weeks down the road.
Yeah, that's tough.
I think Wilson can have that backfield.
Because you're talking 3 weeks down the road, A-Chain comes back in 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
and then
again, if you're getting
3 guys,
even if it's a 50-50 split for this month, like what we've seen with this backfield, it's worth it.
It's worth it. To me, it's risky because I like Jeff Wilson. I want to roster him, but I also want him banking on what you said. Mostert doesn't have a great injury history. A-Chain is tiny. He's built like a child.
And we don't know the extent of that knee injury.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, like, there's no real firm word on like how long he's really going to be out. They just put him on IR, so it could be a lot longer.
For sure, he's worth rostering 100%.
Yeah, yeah. So I snagged him in a few leagues, and he might be, again, it's also someone I picked up. I might flip him. Like, I might.
Yeah.
If he has a really good week this week, like, he might be someone I'm going to trading. Yeah.
Sell high.
Buy, sell, trade ideas. Let's get into it. Who is a player that you are actively going out right now and trying to trade for?
I think it's going to be Kyle Pitts, surprisingly.
Oh, holy! Go on.
Yeah. So
I'm curious.
I think he's still rostered on a ton of rosters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can get him really, really cheap right now. My thought process is it can't get worse than it is. They're looking like they're going to try to throw the ball a little bit more, open up the offense a little bit more, and they're going to have to. The defense is good enough to where it can win the division. I think it's on the up and up for Kyle Pitts, even with Jonnu Smith getting some targets and then getting Jonnu involved. They're going to – I think for what you can get for him, it's worth it.
Yeah. I agree with you. You might be a week late, just him coming off this game. But I agree with everything you're saying. Like, I think there's a world, the back half of the season, they changed quarterbacks and Pitts is a tight end 1.
Yeah.
Like, I would not be surprised at all if that.
I think it's worth it
happens.
For what you'd have to trade for him.
I agree. I think you can put a package together where you can go get Pitts and it won't kill your team. And he's there. And I'm with you. I think like the upside of having Pitts on your team is good. Like it's worth it.
Yeah.
A guy from me, Jonathan Taylor. I think this was the perfect, it's the perfect window right now to go buy him, right? So he's coming back week 1, not week 1, but week 1 for him. Comes back, has a terrible game. Zach Moss looks unbelievable. When Moss did what he did, right, it just knocked JT's value down. Okay.
I don't know if it did.
No, maybe like it might have JT
That
managers worried,
contract is
right?
like
I
showing.
agree.
We'll figure it out with him.
I agree, but if you're in home leagues, right, where someone sat on him for the first month of the season, he comes back, he puts up 4 points. They probably plugged him into their lineup. They're pissed off. Zach Moss put up 20-some points. I just think it's kind of the perfect storm where he's not as valuable as he was, where you can go give a decent offer like Swift. Would you trade Swift for him?
No.
Okay.
And here's the thing.
I'd do that.
I tried to trade for him in 2 different leagues.
What were you offering?
In
Today?
the redraft, yeah, it was today.
Okay.
I offered Brian Robinson and Jalen Waddle.
Straight up for JT?
And got shot down.
That's a good package. Like that.
And that's what I'm saying. I was looking
package.
at it like thinking Moss had a big game. Moss is going to probably be involved in the offense. I think JT obviously gets probably 60% at some point, but if like the fact that he was like nope, and obviously I have an RB11 and Waddle hasn't had great games, but like I'm like damn, like you're asking for a legit like wide receiver 2, a wide receiver 2 and like an RB2, and that's to me I'm not paying that for him right now.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's high.
I'd offer like Kyron and like a flex wide receiver. See if I can snag him. That's interesting. You also have you're also going to run into managers that are so sticky on it. But again, like for me, this is probably the lowest his value is going to be. So I'm trying to do what I can now.
That. I think 2 weeks ago is the lowest it was going to be.
I don't.
When they were talking about trades and him, before he showed up to start working, when people thought he would hold out for the year or only come back for at week 8 when he had to for the contract, like that was the lowest you could get him at.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. But I still think there's a window where it's
maybe
if you got the right guy in your league. Yeah, if you got the right guy in your league, I think it's worth throwing offers at JT just to like see where you can go with it.
For sure.
Because he's gonna take the backfield. Like he's gonna be the guy there.
I agree.
Richardson's out now. Like it's gonna be, and they're running the ball efficiently in this offense with Zach Moss. Like once JT gets up to form, look out. Like let's see what this guy can do with this offense line and what they're doing right now.
I agree. I would try to get him.
Throwing offers.
Just don't give up the world for him yet. He hasn't shown shit.
I agree, but it's there. Like he could be a top 5.
I agree.
Stretch.
I agree. Yeah. Just don't pay like it's top 5 yet.
I agree. Give me another guy.
Terry McLaurin. I think this is a buy now. I don't think I don't think Dotson's really, the hype isn't there. This team's going to be behind. I think Sam Howell's going to get more and more comfortable, and they're going to get McLaurin more involved in the offense. That's just what's going to happen. Money talks.
Yes, it does. Man, we've talked a lot about Commanders today.
Yeah.
A lot about Commanders.
I mean, to be fair, the offense has got weapons. Like, they could be really scary.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I don't know if it's good for fantasy, like how the team is, right? Like, the team itself might be bad, and Sam Howell.
I don't know. Besides one game, they haven't looked terrible.
What's their record?
What are they?
2-3.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Lost to the Eagles by 3 points. And then the Bears.
Week 1, right?
Yeah, and then the Bears beat them by 20.
Yeah,
that was the bad game. Who else did they play? They got destroyed by the Bills. But the Dolphins got destroyed by the Bills, and then they beat the Broncos, and they beat the Cardinals. To where, to me, their offense is good enough, and I think, they've scored a decent amount of points.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think the offense is set up for fantasy goodness. Like, I think Brian Robinson's going to fall off a cliff because, again, I just think they're going to throw the ball a ton. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think all these pass catching options are like viable. Like, I think they can all do some damage. All right, a guy from me. I said this last week. If he has a poor game, which I was anticipating him having a poor game, I'm going to go out and throw trade offers. CeeDee Lamb. He's had a very rough start to the season. Now we got who came out and was Richard Sherman said he's not a wide receiver 1 in the league. He's got no business being in talks with the likes of A.J. Brown and them. It was a tough start to the season. They had a very tough schedule for the most part. Dak Prescott has not looked great. The offensive system in general doesn't look good, especially like how they're utilizing CeeDee. In my opinion, they're not doing him any justice. But I think they're going to have to evolve how they use CeeDee Lamb in this offense, and I think they'll figure it out. I think Dak will get back on track a little bit, enough to make CeeDee Lamb what he should be. And this is the time where you can go out and get him. This is probably the lowest he's going to be for me rest of the season. Coming up, he's got the Chargers, Rams, Philly, Giants, and Carolina. Those are all matchups where CeeDee Lamb should dominate the secondary. So I'm in. I think he's going to come back, especially this week against the Chargers, and put up big numbers. So you need to strike this week before he does it. And this is, again, probably his value is probably the lowest it's going to be until the end of this week. So if you can go out, throw some trade offers, try to get him now. Like the offer you threw out there, Waddle and Brian Robinson, like that's something I'm going to throw out there and see if I can get him.
Yeah, I think Prescott sucks. I don't know how much better he's going to get, but I don't think it's going to matter. They're going to, even if the team gets worse, they're going to target Lamb more because they're going to be behind. So
100%. Like the passing attack, that's another reason I'm in on him is like this passing attack has been so poor that you would think they're just going to hyper focus on their best player. That's usually how it goes, right?
They're
like if a passing attack can't get going, all right, screw it. Let's just go to our best player as much as possible. Dak Prescott's probably going to say, I'm not getting it done. My job's kind of on the line now, so I'm just going to throw CeeDee Lamb the ball 10 times a game. So that's how I think this is going to kind of play itself out. And CeeDee Lamb is, in my opinion, a top 10 wide receiver in the league. Where if he gets the targets, he's gonna produce.
That's been the biggest issue is he hasn't been getting the targets. Right now he is where's he at? He is 28th in targets.
Yeah, and I think there's something that also needs to be said that the first couple weeks, this defense was so dominant that they didn't have to throw the ball, right?
No.
Now with that injury to Diggs, the defense isn't as good as they were.
No,
we need to be honest about that. So the offense is gonna have to start putting up some points for them to win.
They've kind of figured out how to isolate Micah Parsons, to a certain extent, and that's been running the ball at him.
Yeah,
because he's an undersized end. I mean, he was drafted as a middle linebacker. He's a 245-pound. Or 240-pound defensive end right now. And it's like if you run at him, like he can't get by alignment. He can't do a rush.
Arizona showed the blueprint, what you can do to the defense and how. So they're going to have to adjust. But again, losing some of the pieces on that defense that they did, now the starting linebacker's out for a significant amount of time. I think he went on the IR, Van Der Esch. Like the defense is injured. They're dinged up. Teams are going to put points on them. Like the offense is going to have to throw the ball more than they have.
I think they're going to a bye.
They're going to have to rely on CeeDee and Tony Pollard moving forward. Otherwise, they're not going to get where they want to go.
Yeah.
All right. How about a person you are actively selling right now?
Raheem Mostert.
Okay.
And the reason why is because he's had some big games. He's ranked as a top 5 running back right now, top 3 running back. Jeff Wilson is back. We've touched on it. Jeff Wilson gets attention. Mostert isn't going to be the starting running back. I think realistically what happens is it's going to be a 55-45 split in Jeff Wilson's favor. And then when A-Chain gets back, you have 3 running backs who are all kind of smaller and fast running backs, to where if I do want any of the backs, which I really don't want any of them, if I do want any of them, it's going to be Wilson or A-Chain. Preferably at this point, I probably take Wilson just because he's healthy. A-Chain's little, and if he's having a knee issue when he's smaller and undersized, that can be a little worrisome. I don't know if he could take on that load. I mean, that was the questions coming in, like, hey, this guy in camp looks like he's got Tyreek Hill flash at running back, but it's like, can he be a bell cow? Can he get 15 carries when he's small? He's and he's lean. So I'm trying to get rid of Raheem Mostert, and you're going to get a decent amount for him, even with Jeff Wilson coming back, because he has been efficient.
I don't hate the call. I mean, again, this is probably the peak of what he's going to be. A-Chain's hurt. People are probably like, oh, damn, Mostert's an easy top 10 back the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But again, Mostert has injury concerns throughout his career. Like, how long is he going to be able to sustain the workload that he's got? I like it. I like it a lot. A sell for me. He was the wide receiver that was my must start last week. But I'm still on the train that Ryan Tannehill sucks. It's DeAndre Hopkins. He just put up a top 10 performance this week. The name recognition's there. I think there's going to be someone in your league where you can go trade DeAndre Hopkins, get a decent haul for him, and now's the time to do it. Because, again, he just put up those numbers against Indy where it was like a perfect situation for Hopkins to come in and do what he did. I don't think that's going to be there for the majority of the games throughout the rest of the season, even though the schedule's not terrible for him moving forward.
It's not good.
It's like middle of the road. But again, with like how bad Tannehill is, I'm just out. I'm out on all the passing weapons on this offense. Sell Hopkins now while he just right after he put up this big week, you might have someone coming in and be like, oh, Hopkins is back to being Hopkins. Like, you might be able to find that person in your league.
The next 4 weeks, he's borderline at best a flex. There's a bye week in there.
Yeah, I'm not playing him.
But he's playing Baltimore, he's playing Atlanta, and he's playing Pittsburgh. To be honest, all those guys can focus on D-Hop. They've all got defenses that can do that.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, no one else is on this team. Like,
no,
he's going to get double covered the entire season.
And Tannehill's not talented enough to get the ball in there.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's
the thing.
Right? Yeah. With Indy, the defense, like, it's not ideal. But it's like the other games. It's like in New Orleans, he had 13 targets and 7 catches for 65 yards.
Indy was the perfect storm just because how much zone they play and how smart DeAndre Hopkins is finding those soft spots. And Ryan Tannehill will look at Hopkins. So, like, it was just kind of that perfect storm where I thought he was going to catch 10 to 15 balls against a soft zone coverage like system, how they run their defense. But if you get man press and you're getting a safety over the top of D-Hop, like, it's going to be tough sledding the rest of the season.
Yeah. If you can get something good for it, I'd sell him for sure.
Give me another guy.
Derrick Henry. I think there's still enough name recognition out there. He's not a top 5 back this year. I don't know if he's even a top 10 back this year. It just the Titans don't look good. The offensive line doesn't look great, and the rookie's been getting some touches, and the rookie's looking better out of the backfield receiving the ball, and Henry's never been known for catching the ball. So being behind a lot, they can't dominate games with defense and running anymore. The defense isn't as good as it once was, and Tannehill's past his prime, and the offensive line doesn't look phenomenal to where I think you could still get good value trading him, and I don't think you'll regret it.
I'm with you. Spears was almost on my do you believe now list for running backs. Like, I believe in the talent that we're seeing, and like you said, he's getting the pass work. I think it's almost 2-1 in targets over Henry. they're about a 50-50 split right now in snaps. I would say like 55-45 for Henry.
When
but
they're down, Henry's not getting time.
2-minute work, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's Spears.
Mm-hmm.
And Spears, for what it's worth, he looks good. Like when he gets the ball in his hands, he's good.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm with you. Like I'm curious to see how it kind of plays itself out the rest of the season between those two. But yeah, like he's been a sell for me most of the season. Like I just once I saw the numbers the first couple weeks of the splits and how they were utilizing the running backs, it's not looking good for Henry. I'm with you. All right, a sell for me, George Pickens. I think the time is now to offload him after another a massive week this week. I think this is how George Pickens' season it's going to kind of go the rest of the year, where he's going to have a spike week like this, where he's going to be a top 5, top 10 wide receiver, but then he'll follow it up with a couple like 30s, 40s throughout the rest of the season. I don't think Pickett is good enough to get him I think Pickens is very good, like skill wise. I just don't think the offense as a whole is good enough to get him the ball enough where he's going to be a viable play week in and week out. So if you can go trade him for somebody that's more consistent, like straight up for Thielen or something like that, like you might be able to make something like that work.
For sure do that, right?
Yeah, and I think you can pull it off, especially after the week Pickens just put up. But yeah, he's got tough games ahead. The division as a whole is very tough. They're going to play these receivers hard. And then later in the season, up north, like the weather's always terrible. And it's not going to be good moving forward, in my opinion. Again, you're going to have those boom weeks, but is it worth playing him where you get one boom week a month and you're dealing with 8 to 10 points the rest of the week? Yeah. So right now, after this massive week, Pickens for me is a sell.
I don't hate it. I mean, I agree. I think George Pickens is awesome, and this could be the guy who has an Odell Beckham, year where they just feed him the ball nonstop, and he figures out a way. I just don't think the offense is good enough. I don't think Najee and Warren can open up the offense running the game to do it, and I don't think Pickett's good enough to where it's going to be tough.
And another factor we haven't even brought up yet is Deontay Johnson's coming back.
Yeah.
And he's going to demand targets. Like he's
their slot guy.
Wide receiver 1 coming in. Like he demands 10 to 15 targets a game. Pickens isn't going to get as much of the valuable targets as he has been getting when he comes back, when Deontay's back. And the offense isn't good enough to stay on the field enough for them to pass enough for both these guys to be viable.
No. So, I mean, it's almost like, sell Pickens, and if you can get, Deontay at a deal, it's almost, try to get him, have him. I wouldn't start him right away, but you don't know what's going to happen.
I like that.
And I think you can get Deontay at a decent price, honestly, because Deontay didn't look great last year. But he is going to be the slot guy, and this team isn't that great. And I think that they are struggling more with him out. I think the Steelers will be better with him in there, to where I think, he's a buy low. Right, and
he's just going to be the target hog, right? Like he's going to come in. He's going to be the target hog, like he always is. And Pickens is going to be the one to suffer, if you want my opinion. So that's why he's a sell for me, an easy sell if I can get rid of him right now after that big week. Alex, anything else you want to bring up before we get out of here?
I just want to say, all you guys who had JJ, I'm hurting too.
And A-Chain, and who else went on IR this week?
I think it's a little different, though, because Jetta, you're taking pick
I get
1.
it. Yes.
That's the first pick in the draft, and for me, it was between him or C-Mac, and I went Jay Jetta. Gut said C-Mac, but it was also like, I don't want to go against the grain. I don't want to make the mistake of yada, yada. But to be completely honest, off the bat, like, Addison got looks with Jetta, with him being healthy, and Hawkinson's there, And that, it's been rough. Get rid of them. Get that weight off your shoulders. Get yourself a new squad.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough, and we will get you through it, and we will be back tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, getting you ready for the game. And then we'll be back Sunday afternoon, as always, at noon, bringing you up to game time. Last minute start sit questions, so be ready for that. And we'll get you out of here. For Alex, I'm Rob. This was the Dad Bod Fantasy Squad.
Have a good week, guys.
Thank you for watching our episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If you aren't already following us on Twitter, check us out at DadBodFS.
We'll be posting all of our best clips and videos to all of our social media: TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. You can find us on there at DadBod Fantasy Squad.
Lastly, if you'd rather just listen, we make sure we post our audio of each episode on all the major streaming platforms. Stick with us all season long so together we can count our trophies and not our calories.